The first light of morning cracks through the haze of sleep, just barely enough to make the cramped room you call home feel a little less suffocating. You stir, but not in the gentle way of those with comfort. No, you awaken with a groggy urgency. For a poor citizen of Rome's day begins before the sun fully rises. The smell of damp stone and sweat fills the air, mingling with the faint scent of food from somewhere far away, a smell you can only dream of. The streets are already alive with noise, merchants shouting from their stalls, children running, and the creaking of carts, tires screeching over uneven cobblestones. From your position on the thin mattress, you hear the hum of a city waking up, but there's no luxury of staying in bed. You groan softly, feeling the weight of another grueling day ahead. You probably won't survive this lifestyle for long, but for now, you have to get up. The poor in Rome don't have the luxury of choosing when to start their day. There are chores to be done, work to be found, and food to be scraped together. Stretching, you rub your tired eyes and force yourself to stand. As you prepare, you try to ignore the dull ache in your bones, the result of years of hard labor that shows no signs of letting up. You quickly slip on your tunic, the same one you've worn for months, and head out into the bustling streets of the ancient city. The world outside is already full of life. The air is thick with dust, and the sounds of early risers' families arguing, carts rumbling by, and dogs barking as they follow the scent of leftover food. You could use a moment of peace, but you know there's no time to lose. Rome is a city of opportunity for those at the top, but for the poor, it's a daily struggle for survival. You step outside, and the morning air feels thick against your skin. The city is already awake, the chaos of early Roman life seeping into every corner. The sun is just beginning to warm the stone streets, and the sound of vendors shouting their wares fills the air. You know what your first task is: food. Or, more accurately, the quest for whatever scraps you can scrape together to fill your belly. You make your way to the market, dodging children running between the legs of adults and the occasional cartwheel that nearly crushes your foot. The smell of fresh bread and roasted meats hangs heavily in the air, teasing your senses, but you can only afford the cheapest items. A loaf of stale bread here, a few olives there, nothing that would pass for a meal by anyone else's standards, but it'll have to do. The market is alive with the energy of Rome. The rich are here too, but they can afford the extravagant, exotic foods, the spices and fruits from far-off lands. You can hear their voices rising above the rest, confident and carefree. But you're a poor citizen, and your voice is lost in the cacophony. You barter with a vendor, your words clipped and careful, trying to wrangle a good deal. You smile weakly when you succeed. Success is measured in the smallest victories for people like you. Historians still argue whether the plebeians of Rome ever really got a fair deal in the market. You think, as you clutch your meager breakfast? Some say it was better under certain emperors. Others claim things never truly improved. But it doesn't matter much to you. You just need to get through today. With your food secured, you find a quiet corner, a small space where you can briefly sit and eat before the real labor begins. The bread is hard, the olives tangy, but it's sustenance. Every bite is a reminder of your place in the world, a place that doesn't change easily, even with all the promise of Roman greatness around you. But for now, the taste of simple food will have to sustain you, and it's all that you need to face the long hours ahead. By the time you've finished your meal, the sun has risen higher in the sky, and the air is starting to heat up. You finish the last of your bread, the crumbs falling to the dust below, and rise from your makeshift seat on the ground. The city has fully come alive now. The early morning calm is long gone, replaced by the hustle and bustle of a Roman day people, shouting, bargaining, and calling to one another in a language that, to you, feels as natural as breathing. As you step into the streets again, you feel the full weight of the city on your shoulders. The sun beats down mercilessly, and the heat rises from the stones beneath your feet, making everything shimmer in the distance. You trudge along, your sandals slapping against the dirt road, feeling the grit of the streets grinding between your toes. You've learned to ignore it by now. The filth, the smell, the endless noise. But today, it feels even heavier, like the world itself is pressing down on you. Remember that crocodile dung sunscreen I mentioned? You think to yourself. In a way, you envy the rich who can afford to bathe in fragrant oils and wear fine garments. You, on the other hand, are left with nothing but a simple tunic and whatever modest scraps you can gather. The heat is a constant companion. It clings to your skin, making every task feel even more exhausting. The streets seem to stretch on forever, and all you want to do is find some shade, but there's no time for rest yet. As you walk, you pass by some of the grander buildings of Rome structures that seem to tower above you in a way that makes you feel small, insignificant. The marble columns and ornate statues look impressive, but they also serve as reminders of the great divide between the rich and the poor in this vast empire. The senators and generals may reside in luxury, but you must rely on the strength of your own back to survive. Historians still argue whether the plebeians of Rome ever had much hope of escaping their social status, or if their fate was sealed from the moment they were born. The truth is, it often feels like you have no control over your future, no matter how hard you work. But for now, you press on, knowing that the only way to survive is to keep moving forward. The day stretches ahead, seemingly endless. You've already walked miles, and yet the labor has only just begun. As you make your way deeper into the heart of Rome, you pass by the wealthier districts, where the elite go about their daily lives in luxury, unaware of the exhaustion written on the faces of those like you. But you don't have the luxury of resentment. You have tasks to complete, and those tasks, whether you want them or not, must be done. Your work awaits, and it's waiting for you with a sharp edge. You've signed up for labor that requires sweat, muscles, and stamina, three things that will push you to your limits by the time the sun finally sets. It's not just physical exhaustion that weighs on you, though. It's the realization that you are trapped in a system that thrives on your back and the backs of others like you. This is the price of being a poor Roman citizen. Your body is nothing more than a tool to be used until it can no longer move. The noise around you grows as you enter the forum, a place bustling with activity as Roman citizens engage in business, politics, and debate. You've got your own business to attend to, though, and it doesn't involve philosophy or commerceits, the dirty, manual labor that pays the bills. A construction site is your destination today, where you'll be tasked with moving stones, fetching water, or some other job that requires you to break your back in the heat of the midday sun. As you arrive, the foreman, a man who has likely never had to perform manual labor in his life, gives you a curt nod, signaling the beginning of your day. Historians still debate whether the average Roman laborer had any real hope of changing his or her station in life. Many argue that social mobility was nearly impossible, despite Rome's grand promises of opportunity. But you know that reality doesn't care much for debate. For you, today is about surviving, 1 minute at a time. As you begin your work, lifting the heavy stones and hauling the water, sweat pours down your face, mingling with the dirt that coats your skin. The sun feels like it's bearing down on you with the force of an angry god, and there's no relief in sight. You push forward, even as your muscles scream for respite. You know that, as grueling as this is, you're just one worker in a vast system of labor that keeps the empire running. For now, your body belongs to Rome. As the sun climbs higher, the heat grows unbearable. By midday, the streets are a seething mass of heat and dust, and the very air seems to shimmer with the intensity of it all. You've been at work for hours now, your body aching and your hands raw from the constant toil. You've barely had a moment to catch your breath, and your stomach growls loudly, demanding more than the stale bread you had this morning. But there's no time for a proper break, not with the work that lies ahead. Your legs are stiff and heavy as you haul another load of stones, your muscles trembling with the effort. The foreman watches from a distance, occasionally barking an order to move faster. The workers around you continue in the same rhythm, some with faces set in grim determination, others with looks of quiet resignation. It's a familiar scene for those who work in the lower classes of Romino. One speaks much, and those who do often do so in hushed tones, as if afraid that even a hint of rebellion will cost them dearly. In this moment, you wish for something that would allow you to escape the weight of it all. You dream of a break, of a moment, to sit in the shade and let the cool air kiss your skin. But there's no such luxury for you. Still, the hours drag on, each one feeling longer than the last. The heat is oppressive, making it feel like every breath you take is a struggle. You've seen others in your position, struggling just as you are, some of them unable to keep going, their bodies failing them under the relentless pressure of the work. A few collapse here and there, their exhaustion overwhelming them, but they are quickly swept aside. There's no room for weakness in a city like Rome, especially not for the poor. You've heard whispers of those who have tried to escape their fatesome, who have left the city for the countryside, others who have turned to desperate measures, but all you can do is keep moving forward. Historians still argue whether the harsh realities of Roman labor ever truly improved for the common citizen. Some say that things got better during the reign of certain emperors. Others argue that life remained largely the same for the working class. But for you, those debates feel distant and irrelevant. All that matters right now is the work, the sweat, and the hope, however fleeting, that one day this will end. With the midday sun burning down on you, you are grateful for the rare moment when the foreman calls for a short break. It's a fleeting relief, but it's enough. You find a patch of shade beneath a nearby column, your back pressed against the cool stone, and you close your eyes for just a moment, letting the brief respite wash over you. The brief moment of rest is all too short. You take in a deep breath, savoring the shade, and then reluctantly stand as the foreman yells to resume work. The break is over before you even had a chance to gather your strength, and you're back on your feet again, trudging across the scorching ground. Your body protests with every step, muscles sore and aching from the unyielding labor. You return to your task, lifting heavy stones and hauling water, feeling the sweat drip down your face in a steady stream. The sun is at its peak now, and its rays beat down mercilessly on your skin, intensifying the already oppressive heat. You can feel the heat seeping through your sandals, making your feet burn with each step. There's no escape from it, and it only gets worse as the day goes on. Your thoughts start to drift, the rhythmic motions of your work making it easier to shut out the outside world, to just focus on surviving the next few hours. The air smells of dust and sweat, with a faint trace of the garbage scattered on the streets. Occasionally, a breeze stirs, but it does little to cool you down. The Roman cityscape around you looks like a mirage, buildings that seem to sway with the heat, their white marble facades blinding in the sunlight. The grandeur of the empire, once inspiring, now seems cold and distant, like a luxury reserved for a different world altogether, a world where people don't have to carry the weight of Rome on their backs. Historians still debate whether the Roman Empire ever truly supported its lower classes, despite the advances in architecture, law, and military power. Some argue that the empire was built on the backs of the plebeians, while others claim that there were periods of improvement for the working class. The truth is, though, for people like you, the grand promises of Rome seem like distant dreams, unrealized for the vast majority of citizens. The truth for the poor? Endless toil, with no guarantee that anything will change. As the hours pass, you notice your surroundings less and less. The sounds of the city blend together, the clamor of the market, the distant calls of vendors, the hum of conversation, but they become a distant buzz, like the buzz of a fly too close to your ear. You focus only on your labor, on moving the stones, on carrying the heavy load, on getting through another day. Your body is running on empty, but it doesn't matter. There's no room for weakness, no room for stopping. You push through, and that's all you can do. Finally, as the sun begins to dip lower in the sky, you feel a small glimmer of relief. The heat is lessened, the light beginning to soften. Your work is nearing its end, though you're far from finished for the day. As evening approaches, you find a small moment to reflect. Another day of survival nearly done. The midday heat begins to subside as the sun dips lower in the sky, but the work is far from over. You've learned that in Rome, no matter the time of day, there's always something that needs doing, something that demands your attention. Even as the heat wanes, the oppressive weight of the city's demands never quite lifts. You're just about finished with your assigned tasks, but there's still the matter of your lunch or what's left of it. You head for a quieter corner, away from the noise of the market and the hustle of the working crowds. The small piece of bread you saved earlier is tough and dry, but it's all you have. You tear off a piece, chewing it slowly, savoring the moment of calm, if only for a few minutes. The bread is bland, and the olives you purchased earlier have long since lost their freshness, but it doesn't matter. At least it's food. And for people like you, food is everything. The faintest taste of something edible is worth more than luxury when your stomach feels hollow. As you sit, you watch the street around you. The bustling life of Rome continues, as it always does. The rich pass by in their finely embroidered tunics, chatting and laughing among themselves, oblivious to the grinding work that keeps the city moving. You wonder if they ever stop to think about you, about the hundreds of laborers and servants who are responsible for the splendor they take for granted. Probably not. The divide between the classes is too vast to comprehend from either side. They don't see you, just as you don't see them. As you finish your meal, you're reminded of the unpredictability of the days ahead. Some days you'll get lucky, perhaps earning a bit more coin, maybe even getting a moment of relief. Other days will be harder, but there's always the same grind, the same endless cycle of work. You finish your lunch and prepare yourself for the final stretch of the day. The work is nearly done, but your evening has just begun. Historians still debate whether the daily lives of Roman workers ever saw any significant change over the centuries. Some argue that the plebeians were given occasional respite during festivals or by certain emperors, while others claim that, for the vast majority, life remained a long series of grueling days filled with unrelenting work. You can't say for sure. All you know is that the work doesn't stop. Not for you. Not for anyone. With a resigned sigh, you rise from your seat and begin making your way back to the construction site. The sounds of the city grow louder again, the rhythm of life carrying you back into the fray. The day may be nearing its end, but you know that your work is far from over. You've barely made it back to the site before the final stretch of labor begins. The day's tasks are winding down, but there's still the unrelenting need to finish what's been started. You return to hauling materials, carrying stones, and fulfilling the endless duties that are expected of you. Every move feels like a struggle, and by now, your body is heavy with exhaustion. You try not to focus on it, as there's little time for self-pity in a city like Rome. The work must get done. Around you, other laborers are moving at the same pace, their faces lined with the wear of 1,000 days just like this one. There's no chatter, no real camaraderie, only the sound of the stones clinking together, the scraping of tools against rough stone, and the occasional grunt of someone shifting a heavy load. If there's any moment of quiet in this chaotic day, it's when you pause for a breath and listen to the sounds of the city that never stops. The foreman occasionally calls out orders, but even he seems tired today, his voice lacking the usual sharpness that demands obedience. It's been a long day for everyone. The energy in the air is different now. There's a feeling that the city itself is winding down, just as you are. But there's no real rest yet, not until the task is finished. There's no sense of completion until every stone is in place, every water jug fetched, every chore done. Until then, you're nothing more than a cog in the wheel of a never-ending empire. Historians still argue whether the constant, ceaseless labor of Rome's lower classes ever allowed them any true respite, or if rest was something they could only dream of. Some say the plebeians never truly found a break, while others suggest that there were small moments of joy perhaps in festivals or during the rare instances when work was a bit lighter. But for you, the question is almost irrelevant. What matters now is the task before you, the sweat and toil of the present. The past, as much as it holds answers, does nothing to change your reality. As you continue to work, the sun begins its slow descent into the horizon. The day is drawing to a close, but you're still here, still grinding away. You can feel the exhaustion building, your muscles crying out in protest, but you press on. It's the only way to survive. There's a strange comfort in the rhythm of it, the predictable nature of each movement, each task, as if the world itself has slowed down to match your pace. With the sun finally setting, you know the work is nearly over for the day. But your evening is far from restful. As the sun finally sinks below the horizon, you take a moment to breathe. The heat is more bearable now, and the air feels cooler against your skin. Yet, despite the fading light and the promise of a coming evening, the day's exhaustion weighs heavily on you. The city has slowed down. Around you, merchants are closing their stalls, and the streets, once bustling with activity, are quieter now. The workers like you, however, have no such luxury. Your labor continues until the very last minute, and your day doesn't end with the setting sun. You begin your final tasks, whatever they may be, perhaps fetching water for the evening, or collecting the tools scattered throughout the worksite. Even as the day winds down, your mind can't seem to shut off. The pressure of the constant grind never fully releases. Your bones ache, but there's no time to stop. You finish your tasks, your back bent, hands raw from hours of hard work. The satisfaction of completion is hollow because you know that tomorrow will bring the same endless cycle. Historians still debate the nature of Roman labor, especially for those like you laborers who could never hope to rise above their station. Was it a necessity for the empire to function? Was there no room for respite for the plebeians who made it all work? Some argue that Roman society had a built-in system of constant labor, one that left little room for rest, while others say that workers like you had brief moments of respite during special events or holidays. But as you finish up your last task for the day, it's clear that whatever the historians say doesn't change your reality. With the day nearly over, you make your way back to your humble home, feeling the weight of the day's labor in your every step. The city's energy is different, no, it feels more subdued, like the entire world is tired, ready to rest after the long hours of work. The streets are quieter, the rush of the day gone, but the quiet only makes the silence more oppressive. It's a lull before tomorrow, a brief pause before the inevitable restart. You can't help but feel the heaviness of your own fatigue, the exhaustion from the long hours, and the weight of the city that you carry on your shoulders. You reach your home, a small and sparse space, and you allow yourself a moment to collapse onto the bed. Your body aches as you lie down, your muscles sore, your mind running with the events of the day. The cool air of the evening does little to ease your tiredness, but at least you're off your feet for the moment. The quiet of your home is a stark contrast to the chaos of the outside world, but even here, there's no true rest. Historians still argue whether life for the poor in ancient Rome ever became easier. Were there moments when the toil of daily life lightened, or was it always the same endless struggle? You can't know for sure. What you do know is that as you lie in the darkness, the weight of the city, its demands, and its power are never far from your thoughts. Tomorrow will bring more of the same, more work, more exhaustion, and the hope that somehow, someday, things will change. The night is slow to settle, with the constant murmur of distant sounds spilling through the thin walls of your modest home. You try to ignore them, the clatter of carts rolling over cobblestones, the faint laughter of the rich enjoying their evening meals, the far-off calls of the market closing down for the night. It's the same every evening. The privileged can rest, while you, like so many others, can only lay down in exhaustion, but never truly feel the release of it. The room around you is sparse, with nothing more than a small fire pit in the center and a rough blanket tossed across the floor. This is your world, no comforts, no luxuries, just the bare minimum. You'd hope that the simplicity might offer some peace, but instead, the emptiness of your room reflects the emptiness of your life. Every evening is the same ritual, one that you've come to accept with resignation. You pull the blanket closer, hoping for warmth against the coolness of the evening air. But even this simple comfort seems out of reach. Your back aches as you shift on the hard floor, the weight of your day still clinging to your muscles. The physical exhaustion is undeniable, but there's something else-seen emotional weariness, a quiet loneliness that no amount of sleep can fix. The city outside has a life of its own, continuing in the distance. There are banquets, feasts, and entertainment things you could only dream of experiencing. The wealth of Rome is displayed everywhere, from the grand villas of the senators to the stunning temples that rise above the streets. You can only look up at them from the lower levels of society, feeling the weight of their beauty and their isolation. Historians still argue whether Rome's wealth was ever fairly distributed, or whether the empire's grandeur was only possible through the suffering of people like you. Some claim that the glory of Rome was a shared experience, one in which every citizen had a stake. Others argue that the empire's splendor was built on the backs of the poor, who were left to toil without reward. But the debates don't matter to you. What matters is that for now, you are nothing more than a shadow in the grandeur of the empire, a figure moving through a world that rarely notices your presence. As you close your eyes, exhaustion finally begins to overtake you. The warmth of your small fire is a distant comfort, but it's enough to help you drift off to sleep. Tomorrow will come with the same demands, the same grind. But for now, in the quiet of the night, you are allowed a few precious hours of rest, no matter how fleeting. The sound of the city fades into the background, replaced by the rhythm of your own breathing, slow and steady. The worries of the day dissolve into the darkness, and for a few moments, you are free from the weight of it all. Sleep, however brief, offers a small escapee, a reminder that even in the heart of the mighty Roman Empire, a fleeting moment of peace can still be found. As the night deepens, you rest, but it's never truly a peaceful sleep. The sounds of the city, those distant murmurings, the clanging of metal, the low hum of distant conversations continue to seep through the cracks in your walls, carrying with them a reminder that life moves on, even when you're trying to escape it. For someone like you, rest is a luxury that never quite feels fulfilling. Sleep comes in short, broken intervals, and it's never the deep, undisturbed sleep that the wealthy enjoy. The fire that flickers weakly in the corner of the room offers some comfort, but it's not enough to erase the chill that seems to seep into your bones. You pull the blanket tighter around yourself, but the coldness lingers, a reminder of how little you truly have. In the quiet of the night, your thoughts drift to the few fleeting moments of peace you had today, when the work slowed down for a second and you managed to steal a moment of respite. But those moments are always too brief, too fleeting. Historians still argue whether the plebeians of Rome ever experienced true peace, or if their lives were nothing more than a series of endless struggles. Some say that the few breaks in the daily grind, like festivals or special events, offered temporary relief. But for the vast majority, life was always a struggle for survival. The truth is, no one really knows what life was like for those at the bottom. It's a question that's been lost to time, buried beneath the grandeur of the empire's rise and fall. But as you lie there, restless and tired, you think that maybe, in some way, the debates don't matter. Because no matter how much historians argue about your place in history, it doesn't change your reality. Tomorrow will come, and it will bring with it more work, more struggle, and more of the same. And so, as you lie in your small room, you drift between wakefulness and sleep, your body heavy with exhaustion, but your mind still running with the worries of the day. The hum of the city continues to rise and fall, like the pulse of a living thing, reminding you that Rome's great empire, for all its grandeur, will never stop moving. The city outside is quiet now, but you know it will wake again soon enough, and the cycle will begin anew. The task of living in this city, with all its beauty and its cruelty, is one you must endure. But in this moment, as your body begins to give in to sleep, you can briefly forget that. The warmth of your blanket and the low, steady rhythm of your breathing are enough to give you a brief escape from the world you know. You are here, you are still living, and for now, that is enough. The sound of the early morning is subtle but undeniable slow footfalls, the creaking of doors, the soft rustle of fabric against the wind. It's the soft awakening of Rome itself, and while the rest of the city seems to stir with a mix of purpose and pride, you're already awake, lying there in the half-darkness of your modest room. You never truly sleep all the way through, not when your mind is consumed by thoughts of the long day ahead. The city outside might still be resting, but your body knows that the rest of the world doesn't stop for you. There's no luxury of lying in bed, no comfort of waking up in a warm, spacious room. You stretch and groan, feeling the familiar aches in your muscles from the day before. Yesterday's labor has left its mark your back, your shoulders, your hands, they all speak in the same quiet voice, a constant reminder of the never-ending cycle of work. You reach for the blanket, pulling it aside, and the cold air bites at your skin. It's never truly warm in these quarters, no matter the season, no matter the weather. The day starts the same as every other. You step into the streets with a sense of quiet resolve. The early light is still soft, and the noise of the city is distant, a low hum of activity that you're already a part of. The familiar smell of the market drifts through the air, the tang of fresh bread, the earthy scent of vegetables, the occasional waft of roasting meat, but you know that these things are not for you. The rich have already begun their morning rituals, heading out to the finest bakeries and the best markets, while you stand in the streets, already caught in the flow of the city's demands. As you make your way toward your assigned work for the day, you think about how little has changed since the day before. The same streets, the same shops, the same grand buildings towering overhead. The faces change, the workers shift, but the city remains the Samian empire built on the sweat of people like you, who have no choice but to keep going, day after day. Historians often argue whether Roman society was truly an empire of opportunity or one where the underclass had no chance of rising above their station. But for you, it's a moot point. The opportunity doesn't exist for the poor, no matter how much the empire seems to promise it. You take a deep breath as you arrive at your worksite for the day. It's a familiar location, a construction project that has dragged on for what feels like an eternity. The foreman greets you with a casual nod, as if the mere act of you showing up is expected. His face is just as weathered as yours, his eyes tired but unyielding. He doesn't care about your struggles. In his world, you are just another pair of hands to complete a task, nothing more. You begin your work, and the familiar rhythm sets in the lifting of stones, the moving of water, the constant back and forth that makes up the daily grind of your life. The work doesn't change, and neither does your role in it. You are but one piece in a much larger machine, a machine that feeds the empire and powers its wealth. The empire thrives on your labor, but you are left with little more than the exhaustion of it. And yet, somehow, it all feels normal. You've learned not to expect anything more, and the steady, unchanging pace of your day provides a strange sense of comfort, even as it wears you down. The work itself is hard, yes, but the knowledge that it is necessary, that it is a part of something larger than yourself, gives you a sense of purpose. You've found that, in Rome, there's little else to hold on to except the task at hand. And as the hours slip by, the rhythm of your labor becomes the only thing that matters. The day trudges forward with its usual monotony. As you move from one task to the next, lifting, hauling, and carrying, you start to notice the small details of life that you might have missed if your mind wasn't so accustomed to the routine. The clink of the hammer against stone, the deep rumble of distant conversations in the market, the occasional laughter of a child somewhere in the distance, all of these sounds blend into one long, steady backdrop. It's the sound of life in Rome, of an empire thriving on the backs of its people. In the distance, the rich move about with ease, likely planning their day in a world far removed from yours. Their mornings are filled with luxuries you can't imagine: fresh fruit, warm bread, and the leisure to go where they please. to do as they wish. Meanwhile, you trudge along, your work a series of repetitive movements that demand your full attention. You've long given up on dreaming of anything else. The reality of your world is one of hard labor, of sweat-soaked days that stretch endlessly into one another. The sun has moved high into the sky, and the heat becomes almost unbearable, the air thick with dust and the scent of sweat. Yet, despite the physical toll it's taking on your body, you press on. This is your life. It's the same life as the day before, and it will be the same life again tomorrow. You work alongside others like you, their faces as tired and weathered as your own. They don't speak much. There's no need for words when the work itself is so consuming. A shared glance or a small gesture here and there is enough to convey the unspoken truth. You're all in this together, but there's no escaping the grind. Historians still argue whether the plebeians ever felt any real hope for change. You think? The question lingering in your mind. Some say that during times of unrest, like the plebeian revolts, the working class tried to make their voices heard. Others claim that the vastness of the empire, with its rigid class structures, made change impossible for anyone but the elite. You don't know which side is right. What you do know is that nothing has changed for you today, and it likely won't change tomorrow. As the hours drag on, you lose track of time. It's all just one long blur of physical exertion, aching muscles, and the constant pull of fatigue. There's no end in sight, but there's no point in stopping either. The work must be done, and the empire demands its due. You press forward, your body moving on autopilot, as you reach for the next task that awaits you. The sun begins to sink lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the stone streets, signaling that the day's work is nearing its end. But you're not done yet. The work site is still buzzing with activity, the sounds of labor continuing well into the evening. You feel a brief flicker of something. Perhaps it's exhaustion, perhaps it's the desire for the day to finally end. Either way, the rhythm of the work continues, and there's no escape from it. The sky above begins to darken, and the once blinding light of midday softens into the warm hues of evening. The work site is still alive with movement, the rhythm of labor never truly stopping until it's absolutely necessary. You push through the final moments of the day, each movement now sluggish, the weariness of your body growing harder to ignore. Yet there's still that quiet drive deep inside you, a whisper that tells you to keep going. For what else can you do? As the sun sinks lower, you look around and see that the day's labor has made little noticeable progress. The project you're working on seems endless, and the steps forward are small, barely perceptible. You wonder, for a brief moment, if it'll ever end. You've been part of this project for so long that it almost feels as though the work itself has become your identity. This cycle of labor is all you've known, and the thought of breaking free from it seems as distant as the stars in the sky above. Historians still argue over the significance of Roman architecture, the grand buildings, the aqueducts, the roads that spanned continents. Some claim that the empire's engineering feats were the true glory of Rome, while others argue that these achievements came at the cost of the working class's labor and suffering. As you stand there, exhausted and aching, you can't help but wonder how much of the empire's success rested on the shoulders of people like you people, who gave everything but never truly saw the fruits of their labor. The evening air has cooled, but it's still thick with dust and the scent of the workday's toil. You can feel the sweat that has long since dried on your skin, the grit of the city clinging to you like a second layer. You feel worn, physically and emotionally, and as you slowly finish the last of your tasks, you can't help but long for something more. The thought of rest is a fleeting dream, one that is never truly realized. Finally, the foreman calls out that the work for the day is done. You gather your belongings, your tools, and head toward the exit of the site. The sounds of the city are still loud, but they have shifted now. The market is closing, the streets are filling with evening crowds, and there's a soft hum of conversation filling the air. But even in this brief moment of transition, You don't feel a sense of relief. Instead, the exhaustion lingers in your bones, the weight of the day's work never fully lifted. You leave the worksite behind, your feet sore and your back aching. You pass by others, some heading home to their families, others gathering in the taverns for a brief escape from the grind of the day. You know that you won't be joining them. You'll return to your small home, alone with your thoughts and the silence of your space. The day has come to an end, but for you, the night offers no real escape. There's no luxury of unwinding with friends, no evening meal that is anything more than what you can scrape together. As you walk through the quiet streets, the city seems almost peaceful. Too peaceful for someone like you, whose life is nothing but a series of demands, each one more urgent than the last. But as the moon rises above the rooftops, you know that tomorrow will bring the same cycle, the same work, the same struggle. You sigh as you reach your door. The cold air is a relief after the stifling heat of the day, but it doesn't bring the comfort you're longing for. You step inside, and for the briefest moment, the silence settles around you. It's a hollow comfort, but it's all you have. You'll lie down soon, perhaps fall into a restless sleep, and then, when the morning comes, you'll do it all over again. The room is dim when you enter, the faint glow of the fire barely enough to chase the shadows from the corners. You set your tools down, your hands still aching from the constant labor of the day, and take a long, tired breath. The silence of your home is a strange kind of relief, but it's not the peace you've dreamed of. It's more like the quiet, before another storm, the quiet, that lets you feel the weight of your own exhaustion, the weight of the life you're living, the weight of the day you've just completed. You sit down on the rough mattress that serves as your bed, the fabric worn thin from use, the springs poking through in places. It's not much, but it's yours, and for that, you're grateful. The chill in the air makes the space feel even smaller, and you draw the blanket around yourself in a futile attempt to ward off the cold that seems to seep into your very bones. It's always like this, no matter the weather outside. The chill of your humble quarters feels constant. The faint sounds of the city outside continue to drift in distant chatter, the rattle of carts, the hum of voices in the market streets. But here, in the solitude of your home, it all feels so far away. The world of the wealthy, the world that seems to move without effort, is an unachievable dream. You can't even fathom what it would be like to live in their world, to live without the constant pull of survival hanging over every decision you make. Historians still argue whether the plebeians ever truly found moments of peace in their daily lives, or whether life for them was nothing more than an endless cycle of labor and exhaustion. Some claim that even in times of hardship, small pleasures like attending festivals or taking part in community events offered a brief reprieve from the constant strain. But for you, those moments are just stories, things others talk about. Your life is marked by the grind, and it doesn't stop when the sun sets. The cycle begins anew the moment you wake, and the demands of the day will start again before you even have a chance to rest properly. You lie down on the bed, your muscles aching, your mind still buzzing with the demands of the day. Your thoughts drift, half-formed and hazy, as your body fights the exhaustion. You close your eyes, but sleep doesn't come easily. The noise of the city continues to pulse through your thoughts, and the weight of the world outside is never far from your mind. The fire in the corner flickers softly, casting gentle shadows on the walls, but it offers no real warmth, not the warmth of a comfortable life, not the warmth of the future you dream of. As you finally begin to drift into sleep, you know that tomorrow will be much like today. The same tasks, the same exhaustion, the same uncertainty about what the future holds. But for now, sleep is a fleeting comfort, a brief escape from the grind. You sink deeper into the mattress, letting the weariness of your body take over. The last thing you think before sleep fully claims you is how, for all of the empire's splendor and grandeur, it never truly reaches you. But as sleep overtakes you, you let go of those thoughts, just for tonight. Tomorrow can wait.